Hi, it's Manny, and this we got cut off there. This is part two of the odd trajectory of craft flying around the atmosphere. And in part one, we were able, I was able to share with you their idea of using the power sources that are all around the Earth. And remember, we covered created by the fact that the Earth is spinning, rotating, and wobbling, and the sun is showering us. The sun's energies, as we know, and the moon affects it too, create uh, tremendous amounts of energy all around the globe. We know, for example, of the jet streams that control a lot of the weather, and we also know of the great sea currents and use them. I mean, this is going back to when early Europeans were leaving, Portuguese, British, and Spanish to conquer the New World, and they quickly found out that they could, more than using sail power, they learned to use the currents, and they found out it saved them a lot of time, even though the distance was longer. And here is somewhat of the same concept. As we finished the first video, we started to get into the craft itself. And I mentioned that the writings indicate that there are a lot of different craft, because remember, there's a lot of different species and different visitors. But by and large, the craft and the ones I'm talking to, which I have mentioned before, uh, there are many different types. This is one particular group, if you will, that have been channeling the information. They have craft, but they are not always in them. Oftentimes, these craft are, don't want to use the word drone, but again, unmanned. How can you say unmanned when we're speaking of? But the point is that there's nobody in them. They are a craft design with a blend of what we call artificial intelligence and virtual reality that then creates an effect, and it creates a craft that is almost sentient. I'm not going as far as souls or anything else. It's just that the craft becomes an extension of the senses of the class of ETs that are using them. And how do they do this? The interesting thing is what the writing indicates, and they say, look, our eyes and ears and mouth are cranial cavities to allow sources of information, light through the eyes, sound through the ears, that are then interpreted by the thalamus, the inner mechanism of the brain, the firing of synaptic gaps and whatnot, after the thalamus interprets these signals. Now, we know that not everything has to come through the ear or the eye in order for it to feed the information. But what they do then is create the craft to, again, artificial intelligence, but when they blend it to what we now know, like the craft itself is sending out a signal that is fed directly into their senses. And they don't do this through implants, and the crowd I'm talking or writing from are not the implant types. Are there implants somewhere? Perhaps. They do it in other ways. For example, Gloof was telling me in the writing that they use something akin to a soft contact lens. This contact lens is able to pick up the signals emanating from that craft or other crafts, and feeds the signal directly to their brain so that they can then process the information that comes from the craft with tremendous clarity. They almost feel, they see, they hear what the sensors in the craft are feeding them, and it goes right in. They can do it through contact lenses, patches that are close to the ear. Oftentimes, they can be on the wrist, on the arm, or you know how we do down here where the technology is going very, very fast, but the new, not artificial intelligence, the new virtual reality, sometimes you can just put on a pair of glasses or a helmet and it just changes your entire perception of what's going on, and they can feed you whatever they want. Well, that's good for games and other things, but they've gone to the point where the craft can then, the same, whatever it feels and senses, it can send it to you, send messages that are picked up, again, through contact lenses or a small patch near the ear. And anything touching their skin, they can have bracelets or something that looks like what we would call a wristwatch. All of this is taking in that information and channeling it through the central nervous system to the brain, and the brain processes and sees and feels what the craft is seeing and feeling. And it goes both ways, because then, and there is a pilot, not every, I'll get to that in a minute, I'm getting ahead of myself. But their system, which is very interesting, and it starts to work into economies of scale. Not, in other words, their societal structure is that when they go to these other planets, and how they go is subject for another video. How they get here and they come back is, I think the term is the Einstein-Rosen bridges. They don't like the term wormholes because of the connotation of a wormhole, but that there are the concept of the Einstein-Rosen bridges. And again, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. That's how they do travel back and forth. But once they're here, which is what we are focusing on because we see them in the sky, the craft, they all have, all the species, the reason they travel, this is not vacation for them, and it's not Netflix for their own entertainment that they send the craft out here. They all have their own agenda, and it may be that they're looking for a particular ore or a particular metal, or I mean, it could be palladium, it could be mercury, it could be silver, whatever it is that they came to get. Sometimes it's just exploratory information, no doubt, but it's not, they usually have an agenda, and that's why they're here. Some of the elements that they're looking for, that they need, and they're in short supply, they come and get it from other places. For that, there is a structure, and they do have, I don't know if we want to call them federations or whatever, but they are certain, we have international agreements. You just don't go into the neighbor's yard and pull out whatever you want. There are certain agreements. Some of these agreements, of course, have been reached through warfare. Some are stronger than others, but they do have certain, if you go Hollywood, science fiction, sometimes they get it right because they're not limited by reality. And if I'll refer you to Star Trek and the Federation and all that, there's certain rules of engagement, if you will. Not all of them follow it, but the writings indicate that most often they come with a purpose, an agenda. They are here for a particular reason, and they usually have reached some kind of agreement whereby they get what they want and leave everything else alone. Because there is, they understand power, and they understand ecosystems and balance, and that balance does not always equal harmony. So they do try and reach agreements. But back to the craft itself. Now, every group that is in a planet, just like here, we have many countries and many different agendas. For each one to build their own craft and set it off through an Einstein-Rosen bridge to go get something would not be the most effective. Believe it or not, they have budgets and balances, and it's not like they can do whatever they want. So in order to use economies of scale, the primary mission, if you will, is to, let's just say, mine gold or palladium or fine copper or liquid mercury, whatever. But because the craft is constructed in an AI VR type of thing where it's a sentient being, many other groups, say observational groups, exploratory groups, can tune in and get what they want by the one craft, so that we don't have to send, every group has to send a craft. We're still at a stage down here where all the major countries are still doing their own thing. We have one cooperative effort, but most of the time everybody's doing their own thing, and they're going, hey, why don't we all get together, and what do you guys need, what do you, and each country would then say what they want, or if it's the same common goal, why don't we split it evenly, that kind of thing. They've gotten to that. And so when they send a craft down here and it's coming for a particular reason, other people can tune in, put their virtual contact lenses on or the ear patches, or and tune in. It's a cooperative effort that many people, there's only one pilot or one group pilots it, but anybody who wants to see what's going on can see what's going on. It's not like we send a rover to Mars and everything is filtered through one agency. I'm not going to get into who it is or whatever, and they can immediately cut off if they feel that we're seeing something strange or something that the general public can't see. Whatever that craft in the ET world, whatever that craft is seeing, anybody can see, and you come to your own conclusion. Okay. In several of the past videos, some of you have asked about their organization and beliefs, and I believe it was in Periscope that somebody chimed in and said, when I was telling you that they call God Maker, and that one person said, I was taught not to believe in God. What do you believe? I wanted to finish that. And before I go, I'm going to give you a 3 or 4 minute. This is not a theological discussion and everything. I think it's fair, since I've been talking in various videos and people were asking, what about your own personal beliefs? I don't mind telling you, just a statement. Again, not a philosophical or theological discussion here. But I did want to say, personally, this is just Manny, call it a statement of faith, if you will, that I believe in God, one God, Creator, Maker, Yahweh, the God of the Bible, the God of Abraham, Jacob, and Joseph, and that Maker is of love and light and righteousness. And in telling you the rest, I'm just going to give you 4 quotes so that you know where I'm coming from. And that one God is spirit, and that quote comes from John 4:24, where Christ is at the well talking to the woman, and he says, God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship him in spirit and truth. That's one point. Second point, I'm just going to give you 3 points and 3 quotes. The second point is John 3:16, and we're all very familiar with that. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have eternal life. I believe in Yeshua, Messiah. The operative words here, I'm not going to go into theological discussion, but the operative sentences here is, whoever believes. I'm a whoever. I'm an old stick in the mud, broken vessel. So I count, and believes, and not believes like when people say, hey, well, I believe my team's going to win this weekend. No, believe as in your whole heart and in your soul and in your spirit, you believe. And finally, the third point, statement of faith, and the third quote, that comes from John 16:5-15. There, I'm going to paraphrase a little bit. You can look it up. John 16:5-15. Christ tells the disciples he's leaving. They're very sorrowful, they're grieved and troubled, and he tells them essentially, it is to your advantage that I leave. Because when I leave, and I'll be with my Father, and I'll send you the Spirit, He, the Spirit of truth, who will guide you into all truths. And the reason I give you all this is because the message is not odd trajectory of flying craft. It's not about the black holes, the wormholes, the Big Bang. The message that I believe, the reason I'm able to receive this and share this with you, these are very interesting things that I'm writing down and happy to share with you. But the message, if you will, that you take from all of this, let's go back in the last quote from the Bible. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. All right, so I believe in God, Yeshua Messiah. And when Yeshua Messiah said, I'm leaving, but I'll send you the Spirit, I believe these messages I'm receiving are inspired. And inspired in the root of the word is in spirit. So this message that I'm getting is essentially to tell you that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And that God is limitless and infinite. And I'm just like right now being shouted at. Tell him, don't limit me. When he created the earth here and started, and he, you know, if you read the Bible, if you have you read it? I mean, read the thing. Read the Bible. I'm not adding a word nor subtracting a word. Just read the Bible. But notice he says, you know, he's doing all this, and this is good, and God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was good, and God saw that it was very good. He didn't say it's perfect. He just said it's good. And then he created us, right? Out of clay, breathed life on it. Now, what he's saying is, don't limit me. I didn't stop there for thousands of years. And maybe some people still do. There's a flat earth society. We thought the earth was flat. When everything around us was round. No pun intended, or perhaps pun intended. All we had to do is look at everything else. It's round, but some people believed it was flat. Then we thought that the earth is the center of the universe, till some poor fellow said, you know, guys, I think we're not center. I think we rotate around the sun. Copernicus wasn't, and he got, you know, how well that worked out for him. Soon after, we realized that, no, we're not the center of the universe. Maybe the sun is the center of the universe. Soon after, we realized the sun is not the center of the universe. In fact, the earth is a pretty common planet. The sun is a pretty common sun, middle of the road, not too young, not too old, not too big, not too small. And that our own galaxy is a very common galaxy, like there's many, many others. And the message is, God is saying, don't limit me. I didn't stop there. I didn't stop at the earth. It's like a little boy that is taken to a nearby pond and taught to fish, and the little boy may think that his pond is the only pond with fish in it. But as the little boy matures, he realizes that other ponds have fish and other rivers have fish. And then we begin to see, as we mature, that there are many fish in just about any place that there's water running. And to follow that analogy, the little boy thinks that everything in the pond is in balance and in harmony. It's not. Everything in the pond is trying to eat everything else. So there is balance, but not often harmony. And just like that, we are one of many. There are many species. And just like in the oceans, there are fish that eat others and big fish. The writings to me indicate that the universe is teeming with life. Some is good and some is bad. And some are out to get you. But not us in particular. It's just that is in every species that we know here has to eat to survive. And it often eats other things. And we're just saying, hey, I don't have anything against sharks. I just don't want one to eat me. I don't have anything against bears. I just don't want one to rip me apart. I don't have anything, the tiger, and I'm using that purposely. If you go to geopolitical references, the bear and the tiger and the shark and all that, there are other species here that would just as soon eat us as not. And we find balance through power. And we do have balance, but it's not necessarily harmony. Okay, I'm going to leave it here. I would still like to expand on the idea of power, ecosystems, and balance that they have. The last thought on the craft is that, yes, sometimes there are beings in it, and that they do. And in order to talk about why, because up to now, perhaps it's more exploratory is what they were saying, but when they find what they want, they then often must make the trip themselves. And they do that through Einstein-Rosen bridges, and we'll expand more on that, but Einstein-Rosen bridges, here now the vernacular has taken it to wormholes. And Gloof is very quick to point out they're not wormholes, like very tricky things. They are there, they're natural, but you do have to learn how to use them and which one goes where. It's like you go to a Grand Central station, there are trains leaving and coming to everywhere, and you just want to make sure that you buy the ticket and get in the gate of the train that you want to go to a particular place, because you may end up somewhere that you didn't want to go and you don't know where you're going. But again, more of that in the second video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I hope you're enjoying this. I certainly am enjoying bringing it to you, and I want to wish you all love and light and the best vibrations. I will come back to you as soon as I can with more thoughts on the Einstein-Rosen bridges and their idea of power, balance, and harmony. Thanks.